What is up, everybody? Squiddish here with my indie game mini show story spotlight thing for PAX Prime 2013. Now, there were a lot of indie games I had never heard of at PAX Prime, and today we're going to go over a couple of them, some of the ones I really liked, some of the ones that were okay, some of the ones that looked promising. And we're going to start out here with Aztez. Now, Aztez, as you can see, is a side-scrolling beat-em-up type game, and what was available to play right now was simply an arena that spawns enemies until they kill you. The game has got a full campaign, loads of different types of enemies with different moves, and honestly, the combat system is phenomenal. It's really, really fluid. You have a huge base of moves to use that are all put out with just two buttons, just X and Y. Handles pretty much all of your moveset. You can block, you can dodge roll, you can parry and riposte, you can knock people up and juggle them, you can do crazy special attacks. As far as I know, all the special attacks you see these enemies doing, like the diving strike there, and later on the guard-breaking hits, I'm pretty sure you can do all of those. I just didn't actually know how. Even if you block hits, you still take damage. So the game emphasizes offense. It emphasizes going full ham, as just going nuts on somebody is the easiest way to avoid taking damage and avoid losing your life. You can absorb the blood of murdered enemies to heal yourself a bit, but it leaves you really vulnerable while you're doing it. All in all, I mean, just here, I try to block an attack that's apparently unblockable, and it ends very badly for me. Even just this little bit I got to play of just this arena, it was really difficult, but I can see how this combat system would be absolutely rewarding if you can take the time to learn it. This is something I'm looking forward to getting to play when it comes out in a couple months. This is a shooter MMO in which jumping around slows your movement. Pretty sure that's absolutely fatal for an MMO. If I can't just pointlessly bunny hop everywhere I'm going, not interested. Sorry. Now here, this was one of the bigger name, I guess, more slightly higher budget, bigger dev team indie games that we saw at PAX Prime. It is called Contrast. Now, I'm going to leave pretty much all of the gameplay footage in here so you can see a lot of this, because they had a full playable demo through a couple areas of the game. Now, this is a 3D platformer. And the concept here, what makes it interesting, is pretty simple. You are that little girl's imaginary friend. An acrobat who has the ability to just become a shadow on the wall. So for instance, here in the opening of the game, you need to get up to this balcony so you can pass through and get to an alley on the other side. There's no way up there, so the little girl pushes this cart over, knocks over the suitcase, and makes this shadow on the wall behind the light. You then have the ability to walk over to any brightly lit wall and trade places with your shadow and just become a shadow. And that's kind of trippy. I wasn't expecting to get knocked out of shadow right there, because I guess the wall ended, so I came out. But, I mean, it's a really, really cool mechanic. The game doesn't leave you totally in the dark. There's little, in the dark shadows. That wasn't an intentional pun. I mean, completely intentional pun. I totally meant to say that. Whenever you're in an area where it's kind of difficult to tell where you're supposed to go, I mean, the game is very, relatively open. I mean, it's linear and still fairly open. Where there's an area you can do something that's necessary for progression, you'll see a little cluster of sparkles against a wall you need to meld into or a doorway you need to go through. So although there's no Call of Duty arrows over somebody's head saying, "Follow me," the game won't leave you completely out to dry. It'll give you little hints about where you're supposed to be going. And even in this demo, there's extra collectibles like that. The mechanic is very, very interesting. And even just in this demo, I can see how this could get really crazy really fast. The game's story is about the little girl's parents, who are apparently divorced or fighting or something, and she's just trying to figure out what's going on with her parents, and you as her imaginary friend are helping her out. Her name is Dee Dee. I'm not positive what your name is. But this one, I mean, I like platformers. I got a soft spot for platformers, I'm going to be totally honest. I'm pretty sure just about anybody who grew up in, like, the Super Nintendo or even earlier, like, old original Nintendo, or even later, the N64, anywhere in that general region, grew up on those games, has got a spot for platformers. Because, I mean, this is my childhood, these kind of games. And this one, even though in the demo anyway, there's no sort of like ways you can actually die. The only penalty for failure is falling down and having to start a section over again. Just the platform mechanics and the shadow flipping leads to a lot of interesting puzzles and interesting progression. So, again, something you're going to want to watch out for. Contrast. It's going to be out in the next couple months. Very, very interesting game. Very unique shadow mechanic. Keep your eyes peeled. This game was interesting. It looks promising, but I'm not going to go very in-depth because the playable demo had literally one button. Literally one. A is swing your sword. I mean, that was all there was to this demo. Big, roguelike dungeon crawler. Could potentially become cool. There's 3 classes that, as far as I can tell in the demo, I mean, it does not make the slightest difference with when you pick. It's got potential, but, I mean, with a one-button demo, you can't say a whole lot. Finally, we have Life Goes On. Now this game is glory. It makes me happy. It is a puzzle platformer that you beat by dying. You don't play as one hero. You are not one person. You are not the hero of the story. You play as an infinite army of completely and totally expendable knights. And expendable they need to be because the levels are completed by you throwing away many, many, many helpless lives before you get to the end. Pit of spikes you can't get across? No big deal. Just jump in them. You'll die, but the next guy can jump across your corpse to pass safely. Button you need held down? Oh, darn it, there's nothing nearby. That's alright. Let's just jump in this chainsaw here and leave my corpse. And then the next guy can come through and make it through. It's ridiculous. There's like ice rays that freeze your dudes into blocks that you can push around. It even goes so far in the demo to use checkpoints as an obstacle, because the game has checkpoints that determine where you respawn. One of the levels here had rotating checkpoints on posts that you had to avoid as you got to where you could kill your knight, because you needed to respawn back at the beginning of the whole event. So, I mean, already in this demo, a lot of creativity, a lot of interesting stuff you wouldn't really think of. I mean, seriously, checkpoints as an obstacle? Tell me a game where a checkpoint has been used as an obstacle in a puzzle, because I'm pretty sure that's not a thing that happens. You get into trying to escort corpses through switches and burners to avoid them being incinerated, so you can use their weight, or just the fact that they take up space later. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans. The puzzles are really inventive, and although the demo was pretty easy, I mean, it's a super early demo, so I'm expecting, obviously, way more variety, way more puzzle nonsense later on when this game comes out in a full release. That's the only thing that was even sort of questionable about this. It was just, but even so, even being really easy, it was still ridiculously fun. Shooting dudes out of cannons and just destroying their very existence is a thing that will never get old. And at the booth, they even had a little personal touch. They had a place where you could put your name down and you could make a name for these knights. Like you can see at the bottom, every one of these knights has a ridiculously unnecessary name because players have made these. You just get to write down a name, and assuming your name, I don't know what, as long I assume isn't vulgar or whatever, your name pretty much gets into the game. So, obviously, I wrote down the Grand Magister of Forehead, so you guys may be able to use Drybear's Carcass to get you through some of these levels in the actual game. Drybear, you're welcome. Even better, they have a little soundproof box you can stick your head in and record a unique death sound. So, I mean, all of these knights are going to have hordes of unique death sounds recorded by random fucks at PAX. They're going to have ridiculous names that players have come up with. I mean, it's just, this game is just silliness. This is definitely a game that has not lost sight of games are fun. We play games because they are fun. Because this game is definitely built purely with entertainment value in mind. Life Goes On. Keep an eye out. Should be out in a couple months. And that's it for my indie recap for today. Some of the better games that I saw at PAX Prime. Of all the ones in the big booth, these are the ones you're really going to want to keep your eye out. But there are two more. There are two more that I enjoyed enough that they are going to get their own video. And those are going to be coming out here in a couple hours. There'll be one video for each of them, so stay tuned. I'm giving you guys a lot of indie goodness to look forward to. This is Squiddish. Good day.